What is up, guys? It is Archimedes Aizen here, back at it again with another video. Now, this video is gonna be what if Ichigo wielded Kyoka Suigetsu. So, pretty much, I'd like to give a big thank you to DankGod for making this thumbnail. I can't really make thumbnails at the moment because my laptop is kind of acting weird. So, for now, it's gonna be him. But without further ado, guys, let's get straight into this what if. Now we actually start this what if in the shattered shaft of the second portion of the test for Ichigo to get back his shinigami powers. Now, from a point of view, Aizen, we're gonna flashback. So Aizen has been watching Ichigo, growing up and, just being, becoming that substitute shinigami. So pretty much, he would be quite annoyed at Ichigo's slow progression. So he would have made a copy of Kyoka Suigetsu and the small portion of the Hokyoku, not the full one, his original one. So he's gonna take Kisuke's one and use that. So he's like, I don't know, he would take a little bit of Ryatsu from that. So he would still have the Hokyoku, was making a copy pretty much. And he would pretty much put that into Kyoka Suigetsu, making a better Kyoka Suigetsu, and he would give it to Ichigo. Not like physically, but with some secret level of Kido, he would have inserted it into Ichigo, and not like that, just into his soul. Okay, I know you dirty minders are thinking something else. So pretty much Ichigo would have gotten it artificially. So basically that the white Zangetsu would actually be an inner hollow. He would be like full hollow now, and this old man would be Quincy. Now Kyoka Suigetsu would be shinigami. So that's how all three would balance out. So pretty much after this would happen in the shattered shaft, Ichigo would appear in his mindscape, but this time he would see the old man Zangetsu. So what happened is the old man Zangetsu would kind of merge with Kyoka. It's kind of hard to explain, but Kyoka Suigetsu won't actually have a form since it's not really confirmed who Kyoka Suigetsu is. Is it a he? Is it a she? Who knows? Maybe it's non-binary, but I don't really support that, so it's just a he or she for now. So I'm just gonna say old man would have the power. The old man Zangetsu would have this power, and he can give it to Ichigo. He will give it to Ichigo. So pretty much Ichigo would pass this test, and when he would basically awaken Kyoka Suigetsu, when he's fighting Kisuke and he has that grip of the sword and he's literally about to die, he would pretty much do the shatter Kyoka Suigetsu, and the sword, he would have it upside down. It would appear as a green sword. And then basically when Kisuke saw this, bro, he literally had a brain fart. His brain stopped. He was like, Kyoka Suigetsu, how does Ichigo have this? So pretty much Ichigo, after using this, would raise his sword up and tell Kisuke that he's about to basically use this attack. So he basically just swiped the air, and then there would kind of become a wave of Ryatsu, basically making an attack. It won't be Getsu ga Tencho, it would just be him swiping the air, kind of like how Ichigo did to Ginjo in the Full Break arc. So he would do the same thing here to Urahara, and it would hit, and Urahara would have done the shield with Benihime, just like in canon. So pretty much what would happen, Ichigo would have won the fight, and pretty much after this, Ichigo would start getting the memories of Kido and just the intelligence of Kyoka Suigetsu. This is probably one of the reasons of why Aizen is so smart. It's because Kyoka Suigetsu, it's a reflection of your soul. So, Aizen is, that's why he's so smart. He is smart himself. So Ichigo is gonna be just as smart, or maybe even smarter, who knows. So pretty much Ichigo would have unlocked his Shikai, and he would just spend the next 10 days training and trying to train how to use the perfect hypnosis, learn how to use better Kido, learn more tactics, learn how to be smarter, learn how to plan things for the future. So pretty much Ichigo would have just been training. He would have been on that grind. So after the training arc, Orihime, Chad, Uryu, and Ichigo would be gathering up, and they'd be on their way to Soul Society. They're gonna save Rukia. So pretty much the Kisuke would open the Senkaimon, and they would head inside. So what would happen is Yoruichi would be on Ichigo's shoulder, and they'd be running through the Dangai. So they'd be in the Dangai, and when the cleaner would start to come. So once the cleaner would be there, and they would be worrying about how they're almost about to get destroyed by it, Ichigo would just casually turn around, raise his blade, and just swipe the cleaner and clean in half. Pretty much just destroying the cleaner. Now, Yoruichi would be quite surprised. Nobody has been able to destroy the Dangai. Not even, only the Soul King could do that, but he's the Soul King. He created the Dangai, so. Or one of the Zero Squad members. But basically, she would be quite surprised, or nobody really knows yet. So, they would head outside the Dangai, and Yoruichi would reprimand Ichigo, but, and they would head towards the gate. So once they would head towards the gate, the huge, once they would get there, the huge blockage would fall down, and Jabando would come along. So Ichigo would have his fight with Jabando, and Jabando would try to use his 10-axe thing. He would try to hit him constantly with his 2 axes, but Ichigo use his Kyoka Suigetsu on Jabando to make it look like to make it look like it hit, and that's what happened, and it worked. So Jabando would have gotten impaled, would have seen him. Jabando and his eyes would have impaled Ichigo maybe several times over, but what happened is Ichigo would have appeared behind him, and this huge slice would appear on Jabando's chest, and pretty much Ichigo would have demanded Jabando to open the door after he had Orihime heal his wounds. So after Jabando would be in the middle opening the door, and pretty much after he would open it, they would basically run in, and they'd be in the middle of running in when Gin would come along. So Gin would basically say, the gate guard is not supposed to open the gate for the intruders. But then Jabando would try to claim, hey, I lost, I have to open it. But Jabando would then be basically sliced by Gin. And basically Gins would say that, if you lose, you die. Open the gate for your enemy. And pretty much Ichigo would be a little bit angry inside, but he would keep it to himself. And pretty much he would raise his sword, and he would appear behind Gin before swinging. Gin kind of quickly react and clash, causing the mountain behind them to crumble or to get destroyed. After this, they would continue their fight, but Yoruichi would tell Ichigo that they have to get out of here. So while he's off guard, Gin would send the Jabando into them, and they'd be sent out of the gate. So they'd be outside, and they have to go with Plan B. So they'd walk around until Yoruichi would have met one of her old contacts. So they would pretty much be staying there for the night until Ganju would be there. Now pretty much Ichigo and Ganju would have their similar talk, but Ichigo wouldn't really be hot-headed as much. He would be a little cool and collected, and he wouldn't even get in a fight with him. He would pretty much put Ganju in his Kyoka Suigetsu to make him think that they're allowed to come. He's basically taking control of his 5 senses. He's being big brain. So they would head towards where Yoruichi wanted them to go, and they would go to this huge house, and it would take me around the whole night to get there. Now once they would get there, they would see this the 2 guards that just kind of looked weird, and they had similar names. So the guards would come. I actually forgot their names, but they have really similar names. The only difference is 1 letter. But they would come, and Yoruichi would basically tell them who she was, and they would recognize her, and they would take her to Kukaku Shiba. So pretty much Kukaku would teach them how to keep their Ryatsu, and since in the spirit ball thing, and since Ichigo has learned Ryatsu control, he has massive pools of Ryatsu, limitless amount of Ryatsu. He is able to control it. Like I said, he has the Hokyoku. He has a version of the Hokyoku. He'll be able to control his Ryatsu if it's in his heart's desire. So he'll be able to do that. So the exercise would be quite easy for them, and pretty much everyone would be quite surprised by Ichigo's development. So Ichigo would just go around helping other people control their Ryatsu, and he would use the Hokyoku on them. When they feel the heart desire to want to do something, they would become just strong enough to do it. So after everyone would complete doing the technique, they would eat dinner and sleep, and the next morning they would get the cannon ready. So they'd be around maybe 2 to 3 days earlier than usual. So Kukaku would use the technique to fire the cannon, and they would be, airborne. So they would be heading inside the atmosphere of the Soul Society. So, Ichigo would looking at it and realizing how pathetic this is. This wasn't even strong barrier. So he would just point his finger out and pretty much then move his both of his fingers and kind of make a opposite motion. So kind of like how you're opening, an opening motion. He would open a barrier in the Soul Society itself, and they would go right through. So after this, they don't have to worry about the atmosphere of the Soul Society, even though it's not really atmosphere, but I like to say it, so it's a little more simplistic. So pretty much they'd be inside, and Ganju and Ichigo would land with each other, or near each other, and they would basically fight Kukaku and Yumachika. I remember that, because in the What If Ichigo got Bankai early, I didn't remember that, so yeah, now I remember. So pretty much Ichigo would be fighting Kukaku, and pretty much Ganju would be running from Yumachika. That's how it is. So Naruto, Ichigo would pretty much unsheath his sword, and Kukaku would unsheath the sword, and it would kind of trade names. Ichigo saying he's Ichigo Kurosaki, and Kukaku saying he's Ikaku Madarame, and then they would start to fight. So Ichigo would start clashing easily with Kukaku, almost like a breeze to fight this man. And pretty much Ichigo would kind of sense inside of his Ryatsu and sense that he has Bankai. So Ichigo would just stop suddenly and sheath his sword, basically telling Kukaku he's not going to fight him unless he uses that Bankai. Now, pretty much Kukaku would kind of be surprised and say, how do you know that I have attained Bankai? Pretty much Ichigo would say that it's simple, I can sense your Ryatsu. When one attains Bankai, their Shika Ryatsu changes significantly, and I can sense that change within you. So pretty much Kukaku would say, I don't need Bankai, and he would try to basically flash step towards Ichigo, but Ichigo would just disappear into glass. Like once he would swipe it, it would kind of shatter into glass, and he would appear behind Kukaku, and a slice would appear over his chest. So basically Kukaku would use some of that ointment from his sword, Hozuki Maru, and he would put it on, and he would turn towards Ichigo before putting the swords together and going Bankai, Ryomen Hozukimaru. So he would go Bankai, and Ichigo would start to see Kukaku do these wild swings on him, and they're almost working, but Ichigo is way above that. So he would appear behind him, slice his back, then he would appear in front of him again and slice his chest open, kind of like the blade, the marks from both of them will almost be meeting at that point. So after this, Ichigo would defeat Kukaku by putting him in a Bakudo barrier or a restrainment. Bakudo number 61, obviously, and then 63. So after this, he would then ask Kukaku for information, which he would give the same information as Canon, and he would head towards that place. So meanwhile, he would meet up with Uryu. He doesn't meet up with Uryu. He meets up with Ganju, and they would pretty much get Maltaro. They would meet him, and they would pretty much become friends, I guess, somewhat. So they would be walking. They would almost be at the steps to go up, and basically once they would walk a few steps up, they would be at Rukia's tower. They just got at the 13 towers of, I don't really know how to explain it, but they're near. So they'd kind of be at the stairs where Renji would be there. So Ichigo would pretty much recognize Renji, and Renji would ask, do you remember my name? And pretty much Ichigo would say yes, it's Renji Abarai. And pretty much they would start to fight when Ichigo and Renji would clash. Now, Ichigo just didn't really feel any struggle when he was fighting him. It just felt like a breeze to even, fight this guy. So he would pretty much, clash, and he would appear behind him, and he would use, the stealth force technique number 3, Utsusemi, to basically disappear and appear behind him, and pretty much he would slice Renji's back. Now Renji would realize he needs to activate Shikai, so he would go Shikai, pretty much roar. Did I really forget Renji's Zanpakuto? Roar Zabimaru. So he pretty much just kind of throw it like a whip, and it would go towards Ichigo. Ichigo would grab it, pull it back, and Renji would be sent flying forward. So Ichigo would then grab him by the face and slam him into the ground, and pretty much, he would knock Renji out. So yeah, that would be the end of that fight. So pretty much after that, they would keep going upstairs, and about a few hours later, we'll be switching to Urio's perspective. He literally just finished beating up like a few lower rank shinigami with Orihime, and they basically beat that 7th seat guy, the big one, the one that was friends with Jabando. So they'd be on their way until they'd basically it would meet some people, and he would have the same fight with Mayuri when he basically used those shinigami as bombs to try to blow up Uryu. So Uryu would have that same fight with Mayuri, and pretty much that fight would go the same. I wish he would become a little stronger, maybe use that antithesis on him, but that ain't happening. So pretty much we'll switch back to Ichigo. He's running through until he feels this dark Ryatsu coming, enveloping the group of their friends, or himself and Ganju and Hanataro. So, and he would start to hear bells ringing, and once he would look around, he would see this huge tall man with spiky hair with bells at the tips of it, and he would have the captain's cloak that Kisuke told him about, and Yoriichi did as well. And he realized that this guy was strong. He's even restraining his own Ryatsu. So he would tell Ganju and Hanataro to get out of there, while Ichigo would unsheath his sword and pretty much get ready to fight. So Ichigo would then say, would then just out of nowhere sheath his sword. He would tell Kenpachi to take off the restrainment. It was pretty pathetic. He don't even have Shikai or Bankai. It's pretty pathetic as well. But Kenpachi would say that Zanpakutos are mere tools, and pretty much Ichigo would try to prove him wrong. So Ichigo would then point his finger towards Kenpachi and do Bakudo number 61, Rikujo Koro, before he would then do Bakudo number 63, Haimparankai. I can't really say it properly, but it's the 100-step rail. So after you do this, he would throw it, and it would pretty much stick to Kenpachi, keeping him in place. He would then pretty much put his hand up, and he would do Bakudo number 63, Sajo Sabaku. And these gold chains would wrap around Kenpachi and keep him in place. Before Naruto would put his hands together, kind of like how Hashirama does wood style, that hand sign. He would then do Bakudo number 75, Goku Tenshin, I think it's called, but it's the 5 iron rails. So they would appear from the sky, and they would keep him in place yet again, before Naruto would then do Bakudo number 79, Kiyoshibari. And pretty much Kenpachi would be annoyed. This guy's using all these magic tricks, as he said, and it was so annoying. So he would basically, with all his power he would rip off the eye patch, and it would be like a little battle between the restraining Kido and the releasing Ryatsu from him. And the restraining Kido would kind of hold on, but it's breaking slowly. So Ichigo realized he needs to use his attack. He needs to use this attack pretty quick. So he would raise his sword up, and he would go to in a diving position, in the air, and he would go to dive, and he would do Huddle number 99, Goryo Tenmetsu. And after this, Kenpachi would have gotten out the restraints, and a yellow monster would appear behind him, just out of his Ryatsu. It's more spiritual, and they would go with a clash, the 5 dragons versus Kenpachi, sword swing pretty much. And pretty much after the clash, no, Ichigo would be behind Kenpachi, kind of like the original fight of Ichigo and Byakuya, how they clashed and did their final clash, kind of like that. So cuts would appear upon Ichigo, and Kenpachi would receive a lot of cuts on his shoulder, both of them over his chest, over his back. He would just have a lot of cuts, a lot more than Ichigo, and the cuts on Ichigo would start closing by the Hokyoku. So pretty much Ichigo would pass out from the exhaustion though, but after that he would pretty much get knocked out, and Yoruichi would pretty much pick him up and take him to the hidden hideout. So pretty much after that fight, Ichigo would wake up and he would pretty much have that talk with Yoruichi, and they would have the same thing, but Ichigo he isn't like the same. If you know, you know. I don't really want to say it. So pretty much Ichigo would feel the Ryatsu of Byakuya, and he realized he wants to get revenge. His former self is kind of like is pushing out. So pretty much Ichigo's would get the tool, and he would say fly, or he would fly towards the area. So pretty much Ichigo would be there, and he would unsheath his Zanpakuto before being in front of them, and he would put it upside down in an inverse way, and before doing shatter Kyoka Suigetsu. Now once he would pretty much do this, he would activate his Shikai, and Byakuya would be none the wiser. He would be under his hypnosis, basically seeing Ichigo where he normally was. But the thing is, Ichigo was actually behind Byakuya going to sword swing, but out of nowhere Senbon Sakura would kind of like knock on Byakuya's head, telling him to look behind him. Now pretty much he would turn around, and it would kind of be that thing where Senbon Sakura would give Byakuya his vision. Now if you guys are like, what the fuck are you talking about? In the filler, the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, Byakuya and Senbon Sakura merged, kind of in a sense, and he gave Byakuya his senses. So that's kind of like what happened here. So yeah, just imperfected. So he would turn around and clash, and pretty much Ichigo would go back and would question, how did you manage to see past my Kyoka Suigetsu's hypnosis? And pretty much Byakuya would say that he was a lucky call from my Zanpakuto, before he would pretty much go to use the Senko slice on him. But pretty much Ichigo would easily counter block that, just block it in general, and they would start clashing for a few seconds before they would be at the standing point, just like how they met, before pretty much Yoruichi would right when Byakuya is about to release his Shikai, Yoruichi would wrap the bandage around it, and she would usually have that same race with Byakuya. So pretty much after this would happen, Ichigo would pretty much head towards go to fight it pretty much, but Yoruichi would just knock him out, just like in canon. Ichigo is not as smart as Aizen. He didn't train for 400 years. He doesn't have that experience yet. So pretty much what would happen is Ichigo would basically be knocked out. Now he would wake up after Yoruichi would take him back to the hideout, and they would train for Bankai for 3 days. I realized, what Bankai? What are you talking about? Well, pretty much when they would summon his Zanpakuto, the old man Zangetsu would tell Ichigo that he can't really attain Bankai since his Kyoka Suigetsu is kind of stopping him from attaining Bankai in a sense. It's too overpowering because it's just a drawback for using Kyoka Suigetsu. That's why Aizen didn't really attain Bankai yet. Yeah. So pretty much in return, the old man would say, you could learn something better though. So pretty much the old man would, tell Ichigo the truth, and you're like, what? That's a little too early. But the fact is, Ichigo kind of already figured out. He's just pretty much just waiting for old man to tell him. So the old man would say everything about everything but the rain, volume 63 I think it was. So Ichigo would learn the truth, and pretty much he would train with his old man Zangetsu and White, just White. I'm just gonna call him White. So Ichigo would learn hollification in 1 day. It was very easy for him to learn it the first time. It only took him an hour, I think. So yeah, especially with the help of White, instead of fighting white, he's getting help from white, it would have been much easier for him to attain hollification. And for the next 2 days, he would train with his Quincy's abilities, just trying to use, blood fiend, stuff like the simple stuff. And then he would learn the other hollification techniques like Zero, high speed regeneration, Pesquisa, stuff like that. He wants to have balanced techniques from Shinigami, Quincy, and Hollow. So after the 3 days of training, Yoruichi would give him the Shihoan cloak, and he would head towards, the execution spot. So once he would get there, he would then get in between, the Sokyoku and Rukyo. So pretty much he would clash with the Sokyoku, and pretty much he would grab it with his hand and pretty much absorb it with his Quincy powers, and he would pretty much absorb the Ryatsu, turning it into nothing. So after this, Ichigo would go down and fight Byakuya. Now, pretty much what would happen is when they clash, Byakuya is already under his hypnosis, so he would appear behind Byakuya, slice him open. And after all the other fights would go to canon. Now, Ichigo would be on his way thinking that, he had the memories from Kyoka Suigetsu. That means he has the memories of the Soul Society itself, and he did not like how Soul Society is. So he realized he wants to make his own version of this Soul Society. So basically, after he would save Ruki, he would kind of he'd realize at that point he was going to pretend like he was on Soul Society's side. So he would lose to Aizen on purpose. He would save Rukia still, and he would go back to the human world with the substitute Shinigami badge. So once he would get home, he would disable it. He would then not tell Urahara anything, and Urahara is none the wiser. Ichigo is now smarter than him. So Ichigo would disable the badge. He's not gonna be limited anymore, and pretty much Ichigo would start planning his ways to take over. So he would start recruiting. He would train Uryu, he would train all of his friends, he would train Orihime, make it so she can basically erase people from existence. He would gather his army. He would even recruit the Fullbringers. He would give give Ginjo Shinigami powers. He would just help them out. He would recruit them pretty much. He would then pretty much, after Aizen left, what he would do is he would gather all his forces, the Fullbringers, Uryu, just his close friends, and he would have also gotten the Vizards. And if you guys are wondering, why would the Vizards interfere? They have a personal beef with Aizen. At that point, they have common goals, and the Vizards are against Soul Society. They're also against Aizen. They have no reason to be against Ichigo, so they would also join him. I see no reason why not, and they know that Ichigo has his, Hollow under control. So pretty much what would happen is that Ichigo, about 3 months later, would gather his force, and they would open a portal to Eureka Mundo, or Las Noches. So they would pretty much appear in Aizen's meeting room where all the Spada are. So once they would appear with all the Fullbringers, all the Vizards, and they would immediately hollify the Vizards. The Fullbringers like Yukio would make a separate dimension for them to fight, stuff like that, anything that can help them. So Ichigo would basically mainly be fighting Aizen. So Aizen would pretty much tell Ichigo how he gave Ichigo Kyoka Suigetsu in the Hokyoku, and how maybe he has a chance to beat him. And pretty much Aizen and Ichigo would start having their own transformation. Ichigo would transform into butterfly form. Aizen would go into a little bit into butterfly mode. They would kind of just be clashing and fully, it would be like a trap of them who can evolve faster. So they would be in this clash of battling, and pretty much Ichigo would appear behind Aizen, and he would use this slash that Aizen was not really expecting him to use. So this technique he was taught by old man Zangetsu. Anyone you slash, you could absorb the Ryatsu. So what he was doing, he was going to merge his Hokyoku with Aizen's Hokyoku to get a better Hokyoku, so then pretty much make the Hokyoku feel like Aizen is not a good enough master. Not like that, but he would have the Hokyoku reject Aizen. So that's what happened. When he slashed Aizen, the Hokyoku would reject Aizen and pretty much merge with the Hokyoku that Ichigo has. So that would become one Hokyoku. After this, Ichigo would pretty much force Aizen to kind of join him. I know it would be a waste of resources to have Aizen die or him kill him. to have Ichigo kill him. So he would recruit Aizen, and Aizen would kind of be like his right hand man. So after this, Ichigo would spend the next 2 months taking over Soul Society, assassinating the new Central 46, and pretty much going into like the Soul Palace, and he would take over as Soul King. Yeah. If you want me to go in detail, I would go in detail right now. So after the 2-month time skip, everyone would have been training their Ryatsu off. I wouldn't say ass off, but it'd been a good joke for me to say Ryatsu. So pretty much after that, they would open the portal, the Oken, Kukaku's cannon, that's what they would use. They would head towards the Soul Palace, and pretty much all 5 of them would, all 5 of the Squad Zero members would be meeting them. So Aizen and Ichigo would be in the Hokyoku form, with Aizen kind of being in his own monster form, while Ichigo would be in like the Vaster Lorde plus Hokyoku form. I don't know if you can understand it, but Ichigo would have like the purple hair, the long purple hair, like the orange long hair that in his Vaster Lorde, but that would be purple, and he would have the horn mask, his own Hokyoku transformation. So they would be fighting, clashing with Ichibe, while the others would easily be manhandling the Zero Squad members. They would just have trouble with Kurinji and Otetsu, but they would deal with them with their own hacks. Like Uryu would use the antithesis to reflect the damage from Kurinji's blue water or red water, so that one that burns, on himself. So Kurinji would die from that. Orihime would reject Otetsu and Senjumaru from reality, and basically some of the Espada would have taken down, with high difficulty, they would have taken down the rest of the Squad Zero members and the subordinates of the Squad Zero members. So they would have defeated the Squad Zero members, and they would be going to the Soul King when Ichigo would stab his sword into Soul King and with the Hokyoku absorb him, and he would basically have another transformation where he can now remove the mask. He now has the almighty, all of the Fullbringer's abilities, but Fullbringers still have their own portion of the ability since only the shard of the Soul King. So he would absorb the Soul King, became the Soul King, and pretty much he would have changed Soul Society as a whole in general. So pretty much that would be the end of this what if. It's kind of a short what if, maybe a one shot, but it is 30 minutes, so I'm still gonna say movie special. But without further ado, guys, I'm gonna be heading out. Next part of Revenant will be coming out tomorrow. It'll be finale, the Wraith. What if Naruto had Wraith's power? That will be coming out maybe the day tomorrow as well, or maybe the day after that. But without further ado, guys, have a good day.